Broadcast is back, baby.
I just figured, along with a lot of other things, I'm like, this society is not healthy. I am not going to build my life here. I never planned to, but now I was like, I'm wasting my time here. And my parents also saw that, and specifically my mother has gotten concerned. So it was a done deal.
And that was before the war.
That was before the war. That was 2019.
Just before the war. That's a couple of years. Man, I don't want to say... You're lucky. You're kind of lucky because you saw all of it coming in a way, right?
The problem is we all did. There were very few people who... Well, okay, not war exactly, but the fact that this is not going to end in a healthy way, a lot of people saw that. That's why there were so many protests in 2018 and 19. Russians knew better than almost anybody else that this is not going to go well. But and they gave it their honest chance. I've seen those protests in Moscow, and I've seen protests in St. Peter's. And if a peaceful protest could have changed something at that time, those protests would have changed something. But it looks like it wasn't really a time for that. So yeah, I do feel like I've made a correct decision.
So those protests, they were around 2018. So what they were protesting exactly against?
The slogan was, "He is not our Tsar." These were predominantly anti-corruption protests, but the system that already existed in Russia at the time, existed for a while at the time, is that corruption wasn't a problem. Corruption was an administrative tool. It was one of the pillars of the Russian state. Yeah. You heard that story before, did you?
No, I didn't. I'm surprised.
Sure. No.
I'm serious.
Bolsonaro would never do anything like that.
Oh, you're talking about Bolsonaro. Yeah. Okay.
Russia pretends to be a European country, but the way they do their economics, their approach to the rule of law, they are much closer to Latin American countries that are still trying to figure out how to not be a dictatorship again. Well, Russians evidently failed.
Yeah. I saw some YouTube videos because that's how I learn about those things. About some Protestants being searched by the police. I think I told you that. And the police, they were going through the phones.
Yeah.
For the Protestants.
Yeah.
That's such an invasion of privacy.
Who cares? This is Russia. Your privacy doesn't matter. Your life doesn't matter. You are not a human being in there. Like, this is the same country that 40 years ago used to be called the Soviet Union. And despite the flaring of the freedom in late 1980s, totalitarianism reclaimed Russia. And we knew it reclaimed Russia already in 2018. There was a book by Maria Gessen, who already talked about all of those things. And like, exactly that, how totalitarianism reclaimed Russia. And one of those things that you see in Europe is that people imagine, like, the police searching your phones, and they find it abhorrent, they find it horrible. But for us, it's like, okay, so it's round two. Let's go. At least it's better than the Soviet times. It's your freedoms are not given to you. Democracy, respect, dignity, progress, you are not promised those things by the falling grains of sand. They are there when people fight for it. They are there when people struggle for it. They are there when generations sometimes put their lives and livelihood and happiness on the line, just so and without knowing if they would see the result of it at all. It's the small acts of internal protest. It's a difficult process. It's a fight. And it's a fight against people who are quite powerful and quite clever. And it means that as for every victory, you would probably suffer a defeat here and there. That's why so many countries in, for example, the post-Soviet space, or countries that have recently gotten rid of their dictatorships, they still swing around left, right, because it's a difficult process. Because you can't just you can't just kill your dictator and expect never to fall into a dictatorship again. No, you can look at Romania. They shot their guy, and it still wasn't over. And Romania is still not in a great place, and they're still struggling, and they still have challenges to overcome. It's a difficult process. Empires don't fall quickly. and those scars would take generations to heal. I mean, again, I don't know about Brazil, but other like European nations have gone through a lot of that. It's just Europeans have gone through that generations earlier. Time flows fast, time runs faster in the Western world. So you are more removed from that. These things, universal human rights, dignity, respect, you don't even need, it's so basic. You feel that it's so strange and bizarre even when those rights aren't respected. But you are not given those rights by the virtue of your birth. You are given those rights by the virtue of fighting and sacrifices of others.
Yeah. There's this phrase that I hear a lot, that your rights, if you don't use it, if you don't use them, you lose them. And Jordan Peterson, I'm not sure if you're aware of his work. Jordan Peterson, he says that every structure of power tends towards tyranny. Every structure of power tends towards corruption, and the way to keep it in line is to have this constant conflict, where the mass of people, they demand to have rights, they demand to be respected. And if that doesn't happen, no matter what kind of structured power, it can be in a corporation, can be in a country, it can be in a relationship, if you don't constantly question your value and demand respect, you're going to lose it. It's just something natural and part of being a human being. And yeah, that's that.
Yeah, don't let people bully you after a while, in a way. But yeah, those things need to be fought for, and those things need to be exercised. And there are very few, for example, schools that I've heard of where they teach people how to utilize their right, where they teach people how to call and interact with the police, where they teach people,
Really? Where's that? I'm sorry, I'm cutting you.
No, I don't think I have never heard of a place where they do these things, but these like civil interactions are quite important. Actually, maybe they do something like that in like Finland or somewhere else in Scandinavia, like because things for some reason make sense in Scandinavia, but in the rest of the real world, I haven't heard of anything like that.
That's amazing.
I mean, again, sometimes there are specific reasons not to teach people that. In Kazakhstan, we aren't really taught a lot of these things. We are taught that we had two constitutions, one of 1991 or 1992, and then there was another constitution of 1995. And nobody quite explains to you why did we need a whole new constitution 3 years after the previous one.
What, you guys have two constitutions?
No, it was replaced.
Replaced, okay.
95 replaced 92, I think it was. And you're like, why? And you just never question it. It's just normal. And then as you grow older, you realize that, a lot of the democratic process has been undone. Constitution of 1995 is the one that allowed our dictator to stay in power for so long, because he repealed the Constitution of 92.
I see. Oh, wow, man.
Yeah, but like sometimes I'm saying that because sometimes even the school structures have a vested interest in not telling people exactly that.
If I'm not mistaken, schools were created in order to generate obedient workers. That's what I heard.
Sort of. Modern school systems arose during the Industrial Revolution.
Watch full episodes of the Brewcast on the main YouTube channel, youtube.com/@brewfrasca.